Hey, Composing Gloves here. This is another video in the Music Theory Essentials, and today we are going to be talking about sharps, flats, double sharps, and double flats, so that we can continue onward towards scales and chords. So I've shown you how to write out all the natural notes, which would be the white keys, but I've not shown you how to reach these black keys yet. So I have a piano visual today to help you understand that this is a C. You can't see the whole keyboard, but just this is a C. And we know that on the piano, on our staff paper, if we want to notate a C in the treble clef, we do it like so. And that is a C. So we're hitting this note right here. But let's say that we want to hit one of these black keys. Well, that would require what is called an accidental. An accidental, there are five. There are 5 kinds of accidentals. There's this guy, he's called the flat. There's this guy, he's called the double flat. It's just 2 flat signs next to each other. There's this guy who looks like the hashtag sign. That is the sharp sign. There's this weird sort of grid looking thing, which is not fun to deal with, but it does become necessary. This is the double sharp sign, so it's essentially 2 sharp signs. And then there's this guy, which looks like that, and that is the natural sign. These things will become important as we go, but for now we're just going to talk about how to get our C from this to here. So whenever you're going up, you're sharping the note that you're on. So you always move relative to the natural keys. So this is a C. If you want the C to go up, you're going to sharp it, and so this note becomes a C sharp. Okay? And the way you would notate that is it's always, when you're in written music, it'll always be on the left side of the note, because when someone's reading your music, they're going to be reading, and if the sharp sign's on the other side, they're going to play a C natural and then find out, oh, it was supposed to be a sharp. So it always goes on the left side. No matter what the sign is, it always goes on the left. So now we can play this black key. We're telling them to play a C sharp. But we could also say that we have this D right here. So if we were to take our, notate a D, like this, so that's a D. And if we want to make it flat, we just put our flat sign. It's important that these things line up on, well, this isn't the best example of that, but they line up on the actual line. If they don't line up on the actual line, it does not mean the same thing. So just make sure that you do that. It's just a rule. Things need to line up, that way your music is readable and legible. So now we know that if we take any of these white keys and we hit a key and we want to sharp it, we're moving up 1 half step. We're moving up 1 key, okay? And whenever we want to go down, if you can use the flat symbol to go down a half step. This does not necessarily always mean that you're going to reach a black key, however. For example, this is a C. I'm just going to tell you this is because I'm not talking about piano in this series all that much yet. I may not at all. But I highly recommend learning piano to learn this stuff. It's by far one of the easiest ways to do it. This key over here is an F, and if we flat the F, we get an E. It gets really weird. And as we continue in this series, we're going to talk about scales and chromatic scales. But these 2 spots between the B and the C and the E and the F become very important. That's what the flat and sharp sign do. And so to say that it raises or lowers your pitch isn't necessarily correct. It moves you a half step. Okay, just get that in your head. Now you have this double sharp. So this basically represents 2. So if let's just say that this is a double sharp, because I'm not going to spend the time notating that right now. So let's say that this is a quarter note and that's a double sharp. Well, this would mean that our C goes from C to C sharp to C double sharp. So this note is no longer a D, it's C double sharp. When a key has 2 names to represent something, it is called enharmonic. So this key could be said it's a D natural. You could even say that it's an E double flat, because an E flat flat, and so you get a D. So these are called inharmonic pitches, which will become very important. All these black keys are essentially the most common inharmonic pitches you will be dealing with on a practical basis, unless you get into more advanced theory. Because if you go from D down one, you get to D flat, but if you go from C up one, you get to C sharp. And so that's what those do. That's why you would use double flat. And well, I mean, the reason you would use double flat is if you're working in a key signature, which we haven't talked about yet, there are specific rules that must be obeyed. And if you don't obey these rules, then it doesn't follow the rules of theory, and it would actually be more difficult to work with. A lot of musicians have just learned the patterns, because this is based off a series of patterns to make things easier, not harder. So I know that double sharps and double flats look harder, but they're really there to make your life easier. Now, if you're reading along and you have a sharp right here, this makes all the other sharps in that same measure also sharp. So now you've got this problem that all your other C's in this measure are also sharp. All these C's in this line right here. So in order to undo this, you must use what's called the natural sign, which does exactly what it sounds like. It takes the sharp off, takes the double flat off, the double sharp. It returns it to the natural key that it originally was. So if we were to put a natural sign over here and put a C down, this C is now natural C. So if we were playing this measure, excluding this weird guy right here, we play C sharp, then D flat, which would be C sharp again. So we're actually hitting the same note. So we're hitting a C sharp, then we hit a D flat, and then we hit a C natural, which would be just a C. And that is how accidentals work. That's how you undo accidentals in a measure. That's also how you apply them. There are shortcuts, which we'll talk about later, through what's called key signatures. And this sort of sets flats and sharps for an entire song. They'll just declare it at the very beginning. And then any other sharps or flats throughout are called accidentals, meaning they're deviating from that declaration they made at the beginning for the exceptions. So if you have any comments about this, drop them. Or if you have any questions about this, drop them in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe. And check out my music at opposinggloves.com. And have a blessed day.
I reflect on the ride, I reflect on my mind. I don't regret anything that caused my soul to sing. I don't regret growing wings and taking people sing. I reflect on my life, I reflect on the strife. I reflect on the ride, I reflect on my life. I reflect on the strife. I reflect on the ride, I reflect. I don't regret, I don't regret.